minutes or so.
Recording this as required by state statute.
At the conclusion of this short meeting, the regularly scheduled monthly board meeting will commence. So I'm going to follow the agenda for the annual meeting in a slightly different order, but we will begin with the reports. Claire?
Secretary report. I'll just review that a year ago, Barry presented the financial report. We gave the president's report talking about all of the challenges that we had in security, lack of funding from the town of Ira, chasing grants, that kind of stuff. Randall gave us a report on how it was the year of changes and growth and how we were motivated to get things going and up again after COVID. And we had increased our use of this room, other rooms, and focusing on the fact that the library is not what it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. We really are an evolving entity. And then we introduced our new members to become trustees and the new slate of officers. And that was last year's report.
Would one of our visiting staff members who are full members of the association care to move that we accept the secretary's report? I do. We have a mover and a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
Darby and Casey.
Thank you. Thank you, Claire. Randall, you want to throw up the financial piece?
Which one are we looking for?
It's like this one.
Okay.
The
P&L.
yes.
So very Halloween, I mean.
Mhm. Oh, yes. That is actually the Jabberwocky, for anybody not familiar with Early Lewis Carroll. I just downloaded that, so it'll be available. It doesn't say P&L on it, unfortunately. That's gotta be that.
Excellent. This is just a quick recap of last year's results. Thank you, Randall. It's perfect. The green line is our income. And we see we came in at 98% of what we had budgeted, so we're $30,000 short. So our income, we were off by about 2%. Our expenses were 1% over budget. So we're very close to doing what we said we were going to do again this past year. And there was some obvious the areas where we fell short. We had a very successful annual campaign that was right on budget. And we certainly did well in grants. We did not have a fundraiser. So even though the contribution number looks pretty favorable, still missing a slot piece there. And we got a little less money from our Fox distributions. The reason we overspent was almost entirely related to the chasing after the Asa Bloomer building, the amount we paid our consultants and our architect. This one unbudgeted line is what made the expenses unfavorable for the year. But again, very close to budget. Randall, you want to bring up the balance sheet?
Yeah. Balance sheet is self labeled balance sheet.
This is the balance sheet. In green represents where we ended this past year. Next to it is the previous year. And the bottom line is our balance sheet improved by $300,000. And it's these these bottom accounts. Nope, that was on it. A little further down. There they are. So it went up to $300,000. We had $6.5 million of assets, went up to about 6.8. So our unrestricted money in our balance sheet, plus the restricted all increased in value last year, and that's why our balance sheet went up. Weren't a lot of other changes. We moved some things out of cash and into interest earning accounts. That was really the major shift year over year. So we ended the year, the library's financial position strong. Any questions on our previous year's financial results? Thank you. We will move on.
No,
Move to accept.
oh, I'd like to move to accept the previous year's financials on behalf of the association.
Janet, did you want to second that? Excellent. Everybody gets to play tonight.
Any further discussion?
We vote.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. It's unanimous. Finance passed. Let's move on to the,
If it's at all possible, I would like to go last. If there's a small presentation involved with mine.
okay, I will have my short report this year. This is the end of my tenure. 6 years as a trustee goes by pretty fast, it seems. There's a lot of people to thank. We'll start with the departing board members. Join me in leaving this board. Matt, Candace, a couple of people who aren't here tonight, Sarah Marcus, Kevin Coleman. We represent the folks that are leaving. Certainly thank you to everyone who remains on this board, the newcomers. This is a very collegial board. This is a great group of volunteers. I really enjoyed my time. We have strong professional staff. We have seasoned leadership here. This is really a fine institution. I think the library is well positioned going forward. It's clearly disappointing, as you'll hear later on in this meeting. We didn't get the state grant we were looking after. That will certainly present new hurdles. We're looking to relocate. Just keep a couple things in mind of how this current board and a number of previous boards have kind of arrived at the same conclusion when faced with, do we renovate this building? Or would that money be spent moving this to another location? There's been a number of occasions that have reached the same conclusion. So you will make up your own minds going forward, but that's what the previous collective wisdom had been. This building is a challenge, and a new broom sweeps many things clean. So there are other sources of money that can be pursued. As some of you know, there's a sizable bequest that is pending right now. It was given to the library. It's hung up right now with the IRS. That is a possible solution to some of the funding problems. So a beloved institution, and we have an accomplished group of new trustees coming on board. Confident, leave the board in good hands. Thank you.
Yeah.
Motion.
Barry touched on the main theme I will discuss just briefly, which is the building, because I look back at what I talked about last year, and I'm pretty sure I did not mention Asa Bloomer once. So it has been an interesting year. It's been a challenging one. From a library standpoint, we did extremely well. We have staff for the first time in my tenure here, which goes back 11 years. I'm super excited about that. The building is a challenge. The building will remain a challenge. It will be a challenge if we stay here. It will be a challenge if we move. But on the other hand, I was noticing when I set up today that this is a laptop from our former teen services librarian who worked here starting in 2018, and her password on her laptop was Bigger Library 2019. So it is a process. It will continue to be run. I believe that we still have all the options open that we had a year ago. Plus, we have the new option that was not available, which is looking at the Asa Boomer building. So, we have been squatters here since 1938, and we will continue to be until such time as we're not. And I think that's as conclusive as I want to be about the future of the building. I did want to say my appreciation as well, both to Barry, to Matt and Candace, and the folks who are not here, including John Skinner. And so it's kind of a tradition that I do a somewhat less than entirely serious award of some kind. Folks who were here, Kathy, I think, was here when the ceiling fell in the box room, and folks who left that year got a signed ceiling tile signed by everybody. So it's always a challenge giving books to people. I, for many years, gave books out of my private library to people, and they would take them and they would sort of go, which was really kind of depressing because they were books I had hoarded carefully for, in most cases, decades. So instead this year, I spared no expense in the Friends book sale. And I was hoping there would be at least one friend here. If they're wondering where the extra $5 in the kitty came from, it was from me. And I chose titles that, instead of books that I like, I think I tried to pick titles that you folks will appreciate. I had hoped to have the entire board sign them. I did not get that done. So if everybody can sign these, make sure I get the right one. There we are. Judas Krantz is really an underrated. And that comes with its own TV miniseries.
Yeah, it does.
And for you, because you're a couple, I got you 3 books, so that you don't have to.
To read her.
Excellent.
Oh, it's not what it seems. This is-
Oh, thank you. Oh, wait, hold on. Oh, shit. Nice.
I have nothing to So thank you all for your many hours of work, and enjoy it in the spirit that it was given.
Thank you. Thank you, Brenda.
You're
Wow. It's,
No, that's all.
And I only cut myself once carving all those pages.
No, wait, who's got the blood on it?
Oh, it wasn't that much. It was,
Okay.
yeah.
What a novel idea.
Oh. Well, the funny part, the bottles look much smaller on the liquor store shelves, so I actually wound up driving to both liquor stores with a carved out book trying to find a bottle of water.
thank you, Randall. Let us return to our agenda. Moving right along, do we have any old business from us? Seeing none, we'll move to the new business. We have a couple of different items tonight, and we will begin with motion for the association to grant an exemption to the 6-year term limit to board trustee and current secretary Claire Kopic, and extend her eligibility for an additional term. So moved.
Seconded.
Second to you.
Any discussion? All in,
Thank you, Claire, for volunteering.
Could have got the book today.
Well, we don't talk about the knife that was in my back. No, I'm just kidding.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Claire. Now, we have this is the time we vote on our new trustees. The candidates are Ann Bannister, Leonard De Lorenzo, Kevin Clam, Kathy Reynolds, Kathy Solson. Have I missed anyone?
No.
I got. We have a motion to add these trustees to the board of the Rutland Free Library.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Our final act before we adjourn is our new slate of office.
That's actually for the board, not the association.
Oh. That?
Technically, according to the bylaw.
Okay.
Got it. We'll follow the bylaws. Is there any further business of our library association tonight? Seeing none? All right. I will remain here for just a moment. Our new treasurer is out of the state today, so I will pinch hit a couple of minutes in the next meeting.
And if we could pass the books before these fine folks leave, so that we can get some signatures, that would be awesome.
I like, I opened it up and I was like, wait, hold on, something's missing. There's negative space here.
Something's missing or there's something.
Well, I was expecting the paper. Did we?
Yeah.
What a plus.
All right, so
That was pretty.
Well, let's call to order the annual monthly board meeting. We have lots of business to conduct. Where shall we begin? How about the election of the new officers? Why don't we begin there? The slate of offices. President, Claire Cover. Vice President, Matt Olenek. Treasurer is Kathy Reynolds. Oh, I'm sorry. Treasurer is Joanne Hencack, and Secretary is Kathy. Let me be clear.
I think technically I'm not a member.
Right, we're electing you.
Just not quite sure you can do that, but
as we
to whoever is the,
Your eligibility for board service begins that.
right, so I can't really be elected an officer right now.
until you're on board.
Would be my,
Here,
I will strike the secretary of Kathy Reynolds. So to review, president is Claire, vice president Matt, treasurer is Joanne. End of slate. Motion to move our new
doesn't
proposed
mean-
offices.
Alan.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed?
Oh, we can't vote anymore.
It was a fun
Right there.
one.
Congratulations.
Power just went to my head.
Okay. So now I've been handed the gavel. First off, I wanna, thank you guys for entrusting me to the assignment of being the president. And I also want to welcome everyone here, and I want to welcome all of our new members. In a little while, I want you each to sort of introduce yourself and give us a little bit of background. But I know that Barry wants to give a financial report. So Barry, you are,
Good. We have two items to discuss tonight. From the finance committee, we will review quickly the results for the month. And then we will move and have a discussion and vote on the budget that time of the year. Excellent. Thanks, Randall. Make that any bigger? Oh, okay, that's
I'm
not bad.
just trying to resize.
Okay, these three columns, this is what happened during the month of September versus budget. And we were fairly close to being on budget. These variances were fairly modest. You can see we came out slightly favorable for the month. On a year-to-date basis, we're a little bit unfavorable. How much? We're now 25% of the year is over, and we've spent 26% of our money. So we're 1% over. 1% over, our expenses are 1% over, but our revenue is down by about 3% where it should be. That's primarily waiting to get more money from the Fox Fund. We did have a couple of larger expenses for the period. Where are they? Our building. This is fixing.
We had
Air
a
conditioner?
couple of HVAC issues. Not appearing on here is repairs to the emergency lights that will be on next month.
And then the bathroom.
And the bathroom.
In the bathroom, yes.
So that was some of our higher expense on the building line. Some of the expenses on programming is really timing related. So we're as last year and now 25% of this year is over. You get the feeling that the library really does. We set a budget and Randall follows the budget. This will become important for the next part of the discussion because we're looking ahead for the next year's budget. This is pretty important. We establish what the budget is and then run towards it. So we're pretty close. Any questions on our results through the first 3 months?
I have a motion. Oh, you're still gonna do.
Yeah, that's it for our financials. You want to submit them? Go ahead.
A motion to approve the budget report.
Second.
And then do we want to present it?
We want to present, we are presenting the budget and may seem a little early to everyone why we're presenting the 2026 budget. Really, we need to get this in the pipeline now. The next step, this budget will, Randall will have a formal sit down with the mayor. Mayor meets all his department heads and other important folks that get money from the city of Rutland. That's coming up in the month of November. So there's no time that we need to get something, this board needs to review it, approve it, and then Randall will have the authority to go meet with the mayor. The mayor will take his pound of flesh and then we present the completed budget. Our final budget will go to the alderman in December. Assuming that passes, it'll be on the town meeting day in March. So a lot of ground to cover, but this is an extremely important document. Randall builds this from the bottom up. It's based on reality. What do we really expect is going to happen for the year? There's not a lot of wishes. He's been doing this for a long time. I think you just saw last year and even through the first few months this year, the library operates within 1 or 2% of what we predict is going to happen. There are variances, there's pluses and minuses, and Randall pretty much works around that. So the most important, there's 2 or 3 things you really need to think about in this budget. The top, the budget is in blue. And the top line.
FY25 26 is to the right.
Oh, got the wrong, I colored the wrong. Oops. Okay, this is the budget. My bad. What this is showing here is that we're projecting a 4.5% increase for the taxpayers. There's 3 or 4 things you need to take away from this budget. The first is the assumption, oh, that was great, Thank you. It's 4.5%. How does this compare? 2 years, we got 5, 2 years ago, we got 5%. This year, we're operating at 4. We're gonna go into a period of, it's gonna be possibly contentious with property taxes going up. Will we get 4.5%? Unsure. The budget, you'll see in a few minutes, we've made some if the mayor, decides to slice and dice, we'll probably still have a successful operating budget. So if, for instance, if instead of getting 4.5%, we were only to get, say, 3%, that would be about $15,000.
Between $15,000 and $16,000 less in the bottom line.
So you can start to get a feel for what are we presenting, what is likely or what is potentially could happen, and you'll see that this budget will work. This budget will survive a review by the mayor. So that's the main item to think about is this. If you, I'm gonna, there's a couple of other items here. There is a amount. Where did it go? For fundraising, special events. We haven't done this in a while. It was a big goose egg. We've got $15,000 earmarked for this coming year. So that's going to take some involvement from the board to get that together. Randall, if you want to come down a little bit. The next piece is some staff increases. We're projecting we will have a new union contract this time going forward. There'll be some increases in salaries, and there's certainly going to be some increases in right here. Health and benefits. This is the single biggest increase in the budget. Is we had about a 20% so increase in the current budget we're working on. We're looking at another 23%. Randall, that's based on
Blue Cross Blue Shield. According to the contract, we pay 82% of the gold CDHP from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and while their overall costs were approved to go up 22.5%, that actual one went up 25.8%. So we have over a 25% increase in healthcare costs this year. And I don't hear anybody at the state level sounding really optimistic about having a solution for that next year. So it is probably the single budget line that I'm most concerned with.
if we head down a little bit further in this budget, we have some increases in our fundamental, what we do, the services we provide, particularly in the world of download, electronic media, all of that is going up, as well as, head down a little further, programming. The real nuts and bolts of people. We had record attendance this past year for our programming. We now have a full-time young adult librarian. This budget reflects increases in those expenditures. The money will be coming from our Fox. That is not relying on the taxpayers to increase that program. So that's probably the third thing to remember out of this book. 4.5% with the mayor, higher benefits, and then library and programming going up almost 12%. Randall, other comments about this budget?
I mean, I think you hit the high points. One of the things that's been challenging is, do we budget anything for building repairs? Yes or no? So there is a line item that includes $100,000. Control Z is your friend. Line item that includes $100,000 for a capital campaign. That is not included in any totals. That is simply there as a placeholder, as any building repair or move will require a substantial capital campaign. Yeah, no, I think you hit the high points for folks who are, I'll say this one more time, and folks who are relatively new, tell me if you've got it all down pat. The Fox Fund can only be spent on materials and programs, and over the years, we have squirreled away some $430,000 in excess Fox Fund money that we were unable to spend on materials and programs. So I have my staff spending like drunken sailors on materials and programs, mostly programs because you can only put so many books on the shelves, like we're full. But we have lots of headroom still for programs. But at the rate we're going, we will burn through the overage in another 8 to 10 years, based on, depending on what the stock market does, because that money is all reinvested in the market. So if the stock market has good years, we may not catch up for a while. If the stock market tanks, we may catch up sooner. But even though the numbers are rather large, it's completely sound, and it is what Nella Grim Fox gave us the money to do, was spend it on the folks who use our library, not be invested in the stock market. So it's big numbers, and it's completely intentional.
The bottom line of our budget, you compare this budget is virtually flat with the prior year's budget. Even if we were to take a bit of a haircut when we meet with the mayor, you can see the prior budget was predicting an $1,100 deficit. This one's $5,200 positive amount. That's, we are talking about $1.4 million. It's kind of flat. This is a reasonable budget. Again, things like everything from electricity and the supplies. It's a study of how much did we spend last year? Are there any known things coming up this current year? Randall does a pretty solid job. Are there questions about this? Seeing none. We have a motion to pass the budget as presented.
So.
Okay, the next budget will be presented to the mayor.
Thank you. And thanks to our. Thank you.
Enjoy your book. Okay. Okay, so I'm ready to get the meeting with the financials, and first I just want to do introducing my goal for the year. I've thought a lot about this, and I mentioned to some friends that I had 8 goals, and I told you should only have 3. Laugh. And that, well, some of them are continuing processes that we already have to do. So the 4 that are non-negotiable and are continuing processes are continuing the policy of big work that Alan and Matt have been really good, and Amy have been really good at keeping on board. And Joe, sorry, Joe. And so that's one of them. So we want to keep going with that. And what they're doing is they've made a list of all our policies, and every policy gets looked at every 3 years, because some of them have not been looked at many years, and now we've got it on the site. Doing a great job. The next one I have was keeping our director evaluation process on track. So we did give Randall an evaluation this spring. And I think it had been 5 years since we had had an evaluation. So we now created a process. And for that, we're going to keep that. Non-negotiable that we have a union contract. So, starting January, February, we're gonna have to start working on, that whole process. And then I call it the RFL 21st Century Planning. So that is our building, progress and what we're gonna do with our renovation, expansion, or moving, or, what that. Those are 4 non-negotiable goals that I put on. My other 4 goals are, I want to develop have a board development process put in place so that we can, on how we're developing our board and what that would entail, looking at where do we need people, what kinds of people do we need on our board, that whole thing. And Carolyn Mug is going to lead that process. She has done that before for other nonprofits. And so anyone who's interested in that will be more than welcome to join. I'm also working on creating a new member orientation. I think that's been something that we have really fallen back on. I know when I joined the board 6 years ago, I did not have an orientation. I was given the notebook, which I know that Amy has sent to all of you, whatever, but even then, if you look at it and you go, what does this mean? What is it all about? When they give the financial report, what they're talking about, you're going through that. So I want to have an orientation. And I sent a notice out to our 5 new members, and looks like October 30th is a really good day, except for Kathy may not be able to make it, but Kathy is a
It's
returning.
also my birthday, so.
Are you eligible for a birthday?
We could have cake. We could have cake.
So, but Kathy has been on the board before, so she probably will know everything even better than I do. So October 30th, 5 p.m., we're gonna have an orientation. I'm gonna ask Amy to help me set that up because I want to do a slideshow, and we want to also have a tour of the library so you guys can see all the lovely places of the library. And I'm also I want to put in a place, and I've asked people to be mentors to the new people. So Matt is going to mentor Kevin. So questions and want to know what's really going on,
And pays the price.
you call Matt. Right. Alan is going to mentor Anne. So if you have questions, Anne, and you guys can share contact information. And I am going to get a list of who's on the board now. We should too. I want to make sure I get that. Carolyn is going to mentor Kathy, the 2 Kathys, again, felt that this Kathy knows a lot, so she's got 2. And then, I'm going to mentor Lenny. So, we have a working relationship. We worked together for years. I think he feels comfortable with that. So my next goal is to reactivate the development committee because the development committee has been, not as productive as Randall had mentioned. We have not had a big fundraiser since pre-COVID. I think 2019 was our last one. So we really, really, really need to do that. I really am encouraging people. If anyone wants to step up and become the chair of that committee, or would like, we can have some co-chairs for that committee. It would be really great. They've been talking about some ideas that we've done in the past. I think some of you will remember or have participated in table of contents. That was a really fun event, and a lot of people keep saying, "Oh, I wish you would bring that back." We did a murder by the book mystery that was people that came to that was fun. So there are ideas out there. We just have to get that committee going and get that on board. And the final goal, the other day, we had one of our prior board members recently passed away. Kay Jones, who was after Randall to form, she's been asking him to get an Alzheimer's cafe going as one of our program offerings that we have here at the library, and I would like to have us get that going in memory of Kay, because Kay was a very, active in that community. So those are my goals. And, if you guys all can help me attain that, that would be great. I will be leaning on you and asking for lots of input. Members of the- And now I'd like to go to committee report, and Matt, you're the only person here that was at executive committee meeting. I hope you were at it. I know I was not.
Yeah.
Can you give a report?
Talk about the, just not getting the grant. I think, I would leave it to Randall to discuss further some of your perceptions on, like, how that took out and why we didn't get it. So mostly talked about that, and then I just talked with Barry a little bit about transitioning to, just transitioning our board and board leadership, for the next year. So basically a pretty quick, and I think, Joanne was able to make it, so.
Okay.
It was cozy.
Yeah. I think we talked about it a little bit in that executive meeting, myself and Barry, but I think like something that I think it got missed last year. When we reorganized, was really taking the time maybe at like the November meeting and looking at what committees are. And I'm not sure that everybody was actually appointed or on a committee. I just think there was a lot of other things going on, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle. And I think that should be on our November agenda, is to let's really take a look at what committees we think we need.
Yep.
I also think that it depends on the committee. Thinking about the personnel committee, it was kind of like, I remember however many years back, but we had set, like, I still in my calendar on there every month that, oh, the personnel committee should meet every month, every third Monday at this time. Well, the truth is, the personnel committee is not really a committee that needs to meet. It just doesn't work like that. We're never meeting. But to me, a committee like the development committee should actually have a standing meeting time every month, whatever, if it's every month, whatever it is, that is on the books, it meets. So I think we should look at our committees. What committees do we want to have? And then I think we should also assign them meeting days. This committee, these are the committees that are going to meet every month. And this is the day of the month that's going to meet. These are committees that actually need to be able to meet flexibly. A personnel committee actually is one of those, aside from developing a team to negotiate with the libraries union. That committee needs to be ready to meet when an issue just arises, if there's consensus building is needed. Things like that. So we talked a little bit about that. I think that would be a good priority for us pretty early here.
I agree. Great.
It would be helpful to have a list of kind of what the whole list of committees could be, just so people can be thinking about that before we get to that November meeting.
Orientation, we will cover that, I hope. Okay, so did personnel, nothing from personnel,
No,
and no development. And building, that again is a committee that I know we sort of suspended it because we were working on the renovation, but it seems like we keep having building issues, so that could be a committee that we need to continue to have.
I actually have both development and building
Oh, okay.
items.
Oh, that's right, development.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
Building, the microphone does not work currently for this room. We do have a speaker series that has started and it is causing problems. I got a bid that was deemed, well, it was higher than I'm allowed to spend. I can spend up to $5,000 without getting specific, permission. So I got one for $6,539 from, Atomic Pro Audio, who did this installation. Barry recommended that I get a second opinion from a gentleman he's worked with before. I called him in. His bid came in approximately $9,000 higher than this one. So I would like the board's approval. Spend $6,539.03 to fix the microphones in the Fox room. That will renew all the hardware up in the rack, which is why it's so expensive. The system's about 7 or 8 years old, and nobody has any confidence that that equipment has another 2 years in it. And so rather than fix it on a emergency basis, seeing as how the switches and stuff need to be fixed, they can do it all at once for that.
Is that any type of a system that if we move can get moved or no? You know?
I do not, some of it would be movable, some of it will not, would be my best guess. But at this point, we're looking at probably 2 or 3 years here, even if we do move. And we kind of need a sound system. In the past, we have worked with a portable sound system and it was off. So this sound system works extremely well when the switch is functioning. And the service we've received from Atomic Pro has been outstanding. We had a movie shown here about 3 months ago, and I was able to reach the repairman from the volume wasn't what the movie maker wanted. He wanted, and so I was able to reach the repair guy at 5:30 on a Friday afternoon, and he talked me through how to turn it up using the factory. We often get same day service from them. I am extremely happy with them. For this much money, I would urge that we go ahead and do the work. And it is something that I will be asking the friends if they want to repair. As you can tell from the plaque over on the wall, the original system was put in 1/3 by the Friends of Rutland Free Library, 1/3 by Rutland South Rotary, and 1/3 by the So it's an integral part of how we do our work in this room, and I think it's just something we should bite the bullet and replace.
That was my next question. Do you think the Friends will?
I will certainly ask them.
Any other discussion about that? Or
Gonna ask the Rotary too.
I think we just start with Friends on this. I get to Rotary fairly for little bits and pieces, and they're great. I mean, they're, for those who don't know, every time a speaker comes to most Rotary clubs, you get a coffee mug. Every time a speaker comes to Rutland South Rotary, you get a book with a book plate to the children's section of Rutland Free Library, and the person who gives the talk signs the book and it is donated to the library. I have 4 books in the children's collection, unless they've been weeded. I mean, they made all.
They never made it.
So if I could get a motion on that, that would be super.
So moved.
great. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, move.
Thank you all. So taking off my building hat and putting on my development hat. We got postcards. They showed up a couple days ago. And through this, or typically what we do is we try to get together on a Saturday, and we were quite welcome. And stuff envelopes. I believe there is an attempt by the outreach committee to be a little more organized this year and pass the list of the address list around so folks can potentially claim people that they know and personalize the appeal, which certainly doesn't hurt. And we'll try to set something up in the next probably 2 weeks. I would really very much like to get this out right now. I have already started to be, I've had regular donors asking me if they've been dropped off the list. I haven't got my card yet, so, which is great, we love being remembered. But we also don't want to get too far behind so that they get hit up by too many other organizations too quickly. And then we're at the tail end.
So, Darby can do that too. Darby sort of leads us with the mailing and everything. Darby's our finance person, so all of the people who do that every day. So she, I'm asking you to send the list to, and if people could,
Committee, that's the committee I had heard.
well, I think we made that up. Committee?
So I thought this was the alleged Blue Ribbon Committee's outreach committee's idea, is how I heard it.
Yeah, it was,
Okay.
yeah, it was a coffee shop idea.
Okay.
No, you're right, there is not an outreach committee other than an informal one. So.
Should be the whole board.
Yeah,
So basically, you're saying, like,
the list, everyone on the board, the list. And if you identify somebody that you know, that you would like to personally write a little note on here and say, hey, give to us, girl. That would be great. And then also, if you identify people that you know who have moved, left the area, or have passed away, which I used to do when I worked at the cancer center, so I cleaned a lot of people off the list back then. Well, then, you may need to, let's do that, only because that's the only way I knew, you know. And then, last year, we sort of asked everybody to give 5 new names, if you can think of 5 people that are not on the list. And that would be helpful also, getting their names and addresses. And so we just need to pick a date when we can gather and get
I'll
these
I'll
stuff.
send out an online poll with a handful of dates and times.
Yeah.
And whatever is most popular, publish it.
So, yeah, and again, the sooner the better for us to get this out. And policy and planning, Alan, do you have a reporter?
So we met and we did revise one policy that Amy sent out. And we also had some questions about the one that we wanted people on the board to take a look at and see if they had any ideas about it. So the one that we as a committee are bringing to the board to vote on is the service and therapy animals policy. And I'm not sure if everybody got a copy of it or not. It was in, Randall sent it. The board.
Did you print out some as well?
I did.
Okay.
So there are some over there, and it was in the word section.
That's seen in there are some table of both. So the service and therapy animal policy, we only changed a little bit. We,
Sorry, you mean, Alan,
Yeah, I didn't see them.
I found it and got it up on the screen.
That's what I was gonna say, I mean, we can put it on the screen.
It just took a minute to find it.
Oh. Thank you.
so in the second paragraph, we just changed the definition to what was currently on the American. Page. So that's just a change of that definition of David. And we changed another language. We added that, the sentence at the end, because I think we found that was that on the ADA page?
I think that's where Joe found it. That was showed.
Seemed like a really good idea. So are there any?
I think I'm a former rehab nurse, and so it kind of calls to me a little bit, but my only question was, but now that I read it again, when you said any dog, and I was thinking about conceivably, you could have somebody like with a monkey or something, but that could come under therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So the
that was my only question.
definition does say dog, and
It does say dogs,
Yes, it does
specifically,
say
that's
dogs.
interesting. Because we had people that had monkeys.
but in the third paragraph, we talk about the,
Therapy, and, yeah, that makes, yeah.
and then the fourth paragraph talks about in what circumstances we would be able to ask a person to take their animal out.
So based on the research, the ADA basically says that there's therapy dogs, there's service dogs, and then there's therapy animals. And so it's kind of vague. We're not allowed to ask anything about what service or therapy the animal provides. Our biggest protection is the animal needs to be well trained. And if there's any reason that our staff can suspect that the animal is for some reason not well trained, whether that be housebroken or just not ready for prime time yet, then we can ask them to leave. But we need to be pretty clear on what that is, like what the reasoning is, and it needs to be the animal is not under control or well trained.
Number of examples of what that sort of provides a parameter of what not well trained would be. It provides lots of examples.
We've had lots of experience.
We have.
And really the challenge, and I appreciate the work that's done on this, it's super helpful the way it's written. Because the challenge is the ADA lets you ask 2 questions. And every time I've tried to ask those questions, I have been verbally attacked by the person with the not service animal, who then want to pull out the placard or the printout they got off of the internet from a company that charged them $25 for a little license that says that this is now a trained animal. The ADA specifically says that you cannot have one of those. There is no such thing. You can't ask for one. And so all they're really doing is they're proving that they are in fact not an ADA service animal because they think that the $25 license they got off the internet is proof. So by putting the emphasis on the behavior of the animal, we skip those fights, we skip that hassle, and we just go to, is your animal being obstructive for the patient in the library? And it has worked extremely well.
I'm thinking of interesting story. We had a woman in a couple of years ago who had a comfort Shih Tzu. She had been a victim of domestic violence, and she had her dog that comforted her, and her dog's entire job was to alert an aggression. So the way that this played out is she has her little dog on a leash next to the public computer, and a toddler comes charging out of the children's room. And the dog lost it, the toddler lost it, the woman lost it, and it wasn't that there's anything wrong with having a comfort Shih Tzu, it's that we can't have that here. And we got to the behavior of the animal takes the judgment out of why you have the animal.
Our staff asked, we talked about our experience, our staff asked to care for the animals.
Have we been asked?
Yeah.
Not to the best of my knowledge. I think we've, if we had maybe more receptive faces, I would assume. But I'm looking at your comfort crab, I'm not like
I'm
happy.
just wondering, because they're not required, leaves open the ability to.
This reminds me of the yoga.
And I was thinking, if the staff doesn't want to play in that sandbox, staff shall not provide care or supervision for service animals.
So your question would be, is there an instance in which we might,
You might want to.
I think we want to leave ourselves that room, right?
Okay, that was the question.
I would
Do you
like to
want
be
the
able to
room
perform
to play?
CPR.
Or do you want the
clean, definitive, no. I'm looking at the big marshmallow in the corner who is just helpless when a dog with big, fatty eyes comes in.
I think it's a toss up. I think that would appreciate not it being a for in danger. I don't want them to think I will be fired. So I don't know. I think they would, yeah.
I would like to be able to provide first aid.
Yeah,
If-
yeah. I think they would option and they're in charge to begin with, and then with. I don't want them to feel like that's the trouble if they do. For the animal. I guess. Weird.
I was wondering if even like, because you're with the care kind of going to injury, I'm just thinking of the pretty banal example of, hey, I gotta use the John.
That.
Will you hold the dog leash for 2 minutes so I can go?
Absolutely not, under no circumstances, no. Take the dog with you. If you cannot take the dog to the toilet with you, it's clearly not a service animal and has no place in our library. Thank you for leaving. I am not, no. Because
4 hours later.
that, no, I have owned dogs for much of my life, and dogs get most stressed when they're in an unfamiliar environment and then their owner leaves. So what you're doing is you're taking a dog, you're putting it into the single hardest set of circumstances possible, and you've got a staff member holding the leash. No, flat no, I would not do it, never.
I just love hearing about all these things that I just never thought of.
You have to reference the ADA definition. Like where you pull that from. So that there's no citation. Or at least include the date. Excuse me? Or at least include the date in parentheses after. Is it done that way sometimes?
I think all of the policies are dated.
Yeah.
So,
Then I did say like you pull a definition from EPA Act. Yeah, should that be referenced at the bottom of? So that if someone says, what's the policy on a service animal? We provide it.
But the URL. Yeah,
For the URL.
Or even maybe just spell it out. So it's not sitting there as an acronym.
See that before where there's just I've seen policies before there's a law at the bottom. What it should look like.
okay, so it sounds like we should, the wording is acceptable, but then add a reference at the bottom.
so I would think that would be a motion to amend the, or to adopt the policy with the amendment that we add the actual text of the ADA or the URL to the bottom.
The URL would be accepted.
So that's a motion.
Yes. Thank you.
Second that motion? Second, okay. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
So the other policy, that we wanted to bring, we're not done with it, because we had some questions. We did make some changes. We changed it was called the flag policy, and we're gonna change that to promotional materials policy. Just kind of broaden the scope of it a little bit. So we changed some wording a little bit, but the questions at the bottom, we wanted to bring to the board, especially. So the question is about a group posting a promotional material to the bulletin, which is the way it's written now. and how that relates to a more permanent flag or banner. Is that if we put somebody's banner up for endorsement, that Matt and Amy, does that seem?
Yeah,
like what we were
I
talking-
understand completely. This is where we're talking about the evening on the side of the building. We ended up inevitably talking about what public notices can be posted to the bulletin board. So that's why all of a sudden the bulletin board is in our flag policy. And we were just wondering, the bulletin board focuses on basically events within a timeline or more events. It's not just repeating what you said, Ellen. It's not just a sign that says this group exists. Whereas a more permanent flag or banner isn't really about a social service event anymore. So we ran into whether or not it's unconditional endorsement of a group. Kevin? Am I not making sense? Maybe somebody else can give it a shot.
That's almost certainly mean that
No,
Well, the examples would be, there's been several school districts who've had controversy over flying flags.
so I picked that up, but
Yeah,
don't you sort of set that straight by saying the only thing that's bannered is the flag, whatever word is it? Beside the flag of the state of Vermont and the United States, so those are the only flags that are exterior.
well,
That's,
my understanding is right now there's a banner on the exterior that I didn't even notice. That is not. It is a.
It's the Alder Welcome Here,
Yeah.
banner that the city was promoting.
Yeah.
When we put it up, it was on City Hall and all the schools.
Yeah, that was our question, because Amy had mentioned that it was. That it's maybe not that banner, cause I always wondered, where did the banner, there, like, I always assumed it was the Rutland, I remember the TV commercials that were on, I haven't seen them in a while, but the I Love Rutland little promotional
Right.
campaign.
Yeah.
And I don't know who was behind that, I figured it was, I don't know my acronyms, what's the Cedar, or,
yeah, I was unclear where, I couldn't name exactly where a banner came from.
but that, so that particular banner. That says all are welcome, I thought you had indicated that's actually not, that was. Promotional materials from that Cedar, is it, I don't know, Cedar? That created that advertising
I
campaign?
don't think it was Cedar, they participated, but, and I'm blanking on the name of the organization that did the work, but there was a half a dozen, city
Yeah.
organizations that had kind of gone together. The hospital was flying it, City Hall was flying it.
Yeah.
So I stuck one up.
Yeah,
I
well, this
don't-
question was, so, 'cause I remember that I had one of those signs still on my front lawn, and my wife brought it home, I didn't even know where she got it, like. Somebody was giving them out, but you had mentioned that that may have been,
I had thought that I was really unclear first,
Yeah.
when I knew I was, but I had thought that the social tinkering group had kind of taken over that logo. That we may have been working with social tinkering in order, but just by.
they also added in,
Regardless.
I mean, to be blunt, they also added in advocacy. Into that. So that promotional was about promoting the community as like a economic destination, basically. Like, here's all the great things to do in Rutland, this, that, and the other thing. And so now that banner has been taken, and there is some advocacy has now been placed into that banner. So you kind of change the nature of that banner. And so that was kind of a question, like, what roads do you go down when you display flags, banners, whatever personal material that have advocacy in them? And like, that's, so I know, be careful, because just, I think, I know it happened at Rutland High School. I think it was an issue at Mill River Schools, a few others where, there were requests to fly certain flags that were related to advocacy, and it created a lot of controversy in the community. And I, just from my personal perspective, I know this is, and I will continue to beat that drum. For me, I know that this is a nonprofit organization. It's also a nonprofit organization that primarily depends on taxpayers to fund its operations. And so I'm always very, very leery about entering into any kind of advocacy for any type of group. And so, you know, the motion materials, I also have lots of questions about them.
And I think that this banner is right on the edge of that. And that's why we wrote the policy in the first place. I am not comfortable with advocacy of any description except for Rutland Free Library on the outside of our building. Frankly, I should have had that banner down 6 months ago or a year ago. It's been like the 19th thing on my 18-item to-do list for longer than I can remember. Partly because I don't know what to replace it with. I'd like to put something up that, you know, screams library. But yeah, I don't.
Take out number 3. And that eliminates that gray area. Because what is community sport? How do you describe that? How do you define that? How do you explain it? Which part of the community, how much of the community?
Oh, I have one. I love Rutland without the flag thing put into the heart.
Mhm.
That I Love Rutland campaign was a community, it's like on behalf of the whole community, it's very like advocacy neutral. Like that to me is a community supported message that directly supports the library mission, and I don't see any advocacy in that. So I mean, I think there can be room to allow to promote for materials that promote the community as a whole, like the city.
Don't you think, Matt, that would fall as a library message? Like we could put that under a library message so that we could eliminate, like Kevin said, the argument over what is a community supported message?
Direct support of the library mission.
I just want to put out there for conversation that we have a number of people moving into our community from foreign countries. And they look very different than we do. What they wear, what their skin looks like. Having a sign that says all are welcome here is a really welcoming statement for these people that are looking around and not really seeing a whole lot of people that look like them. And you can call that advocacy, but I just call that welcoming.
And that's why number 3 is in there, is so that, you know, we are free and open to all are welcome here. That's really the core of what we do. It's in the description of how you can use this room, for instance. And so, I really, what it comes down to is I pushed for this because I really wanted to be able to hang that banner to show that we were in support of a movement that the entire city was supporting. And I did agree with your point of view that it is welcoming to all, and that welcoming to all does directly support the library mission. So it is a little bit of a gray area. For me, it's not outright advocacy. I think we would get into trouble, and I take Matt's point very seriously, and I have actually argued on his side at the state level numerous times that libraries that say, okay, we are going to choose to fly Black Lives Matter flag or rainbow flags or flags that do advocacy work are at some level putting libraries into a role that I'm not comfortable with. We had a family in last day I worked the desk, and the little kid really wanted to see a movie with hunting because he loves to hunt. There was a family of like 5. And I don't think they would feel welcome if we had a rainbow flag in the front of our library. Just don't. And it's important to me that the entire community feels that this library is for them. And if some people choose to say, well, if everybody's welcome, I'm not welcome, I'm sorry. You know, at a certain point, everybody is welcome has to mean everybody is welcome. But there's a difference between that and saying, okay, this group is welcome. And I would certainly stay away from that.
I think we did a to double check, because I can't actually picture the sign that's on the building, like what it looks like. It's been so ubiquitous, it just blends in. So the one that I have on my lawn has like the flag, the LGBTQ plus flag inside the heart. Is the one on the library banner have that?
It has a flag, but
With
it's
the
not.
most colors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I'm thinking of. That's what different, yeah. Okay.
Got that logo.
That's why, that's where I'm kind of differentiating, like, where my mind is about the, like. Like, it's one of those things that, you know, participating in some of these discussions. Like, somebody made the point about the Black Lives Matter flag, and people said like, that concept isn't political. You know, and like, yeah, I agree, the concept isn't political, but Black Lives Matter is a political organization, so it doesn't just exist as like a concept. It also exists as an organization that does actual political advocacy. And so it is political. I'm not sure about that, that's the same parallel on this, but where I have in my head is like, you know, there are some people that are very opposed to rights for LGBTQ people, whether they're right or wrong. And so that's where my question is, like, when does like a sign kind of cross into, like, to me, I see the I love Rutland thing, everybody's welcome as like pretty politically neutral. I don't know, like, it's just like you said, it's a welcoming message. But when the heart has that flag in it, that flag is a political symbol, in my opinion, whether you want it to be a political symbol or not, it is a political symbol. And so that's where my question is about what you display.
So it sounds to me like, first of all, there's no action item directly here, and like for the policy committee, our next work is really focused on number 3. Does that sound correct to everyone?
Tinker with that a little bit more, that part of it.
Clear it up?
Do we have an example of in your second note? So by that, an anti-something community group, like, I'm just trying to get my head around.
That point
I recall examples.
was, Ellen had pointed out that the number 3, just the statement itself is kind of unclear and circular. It doesn't set any boundaries, which makes it.
Simple.
Yeah.
You have a small percentage of your community that wants to do something that's within community support.
Just what the procedure is, I understand this is a policy, but is there a procedure that goes along with it that says it must be submitted to somebody, or can people just come in and hang stuff on the bulletin board? How does it work?
You've been overseeing that. Did you want to talk?
Yeah, bulletin board, I'm happy to have people just come in and post stuff. Otherwise I am micromanaging the bulletin board.
It could be.
And as it is, I just, nights when I'm on close, I'll stand in the lobby for 5 minutes while everybody else is tidying up the building and just take stuff down that shouldn't be up there. We don't have a problem, a significant problem at all, with things that should not be posted there. The most common one is people putting their business cards up, and I just take those down and recycle them. Or, call them because we need those services. And then recycle. So it's not really a major issue. And I would rather have the flexibility to be able to just, oh, Randall, there's somebody here and they want to put a 8.5 by 11 up on the bulletin board. Great, let that happen. And then when I have time, I'll review it as opposed to pulling me out of whatever I'm doing. So I can, yeah.
And the bulletin board too, it's just not as clear as this came up in our meeting, it was cool. Not as clear as making a rule like we post not-for-profit events. It's just not that clear. Like when Chipotle was new to town and they wanted to hold a bunch of interviews, we wanted people to know those interviews were available. But if Chipotle wanted to have a, sale on our bulletin board, then no.
Well.
Matt, where does policy committee feel like this conversation is at?
Yeah, I think, so to me, it's like considering points about if communities, we need to work on line 3.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out how to tinker with that line so that we can, it kind of says, yeah, we will promote messages that are like promoting I don't know what's the right way to describe it. I'm thinking, I don't know if it's the economic. Rutland is Rutland as a whole community, right? Like, so what are things that the whole community is united? So it's like economic development or we need to work on.
Even then, you
Little
can
bit.
get people on both sides
Right,
of
I mean,
this. What if,
there isn't anything you can't get people.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I'm just going back to, that sign just makes me think of those commercials that were on, like, that, I love Rutland, so much to do, but we're over at this business, like, hey, check out this museum. It's like, it's so neutral, like, to me, like, it's just, pride in the community as just what it is. So we just can go back in here with it.
what if it's a flag or a banner, like a big flag or a big banner, it has to be approved by the board.
Yeah, I think, my thinking is you probably wanna have some criteria though down on paper about what you would consider. Like, so you don't, I don't know.
Right.
It's trying to have about the criteria. And a half an hour talking about each banner. I mean, I think it makes some sense to have something clearly on paper that will be guidance.
That's micromanaging.
Yeah.
For the board to be approving.
Yeah.
Like, we need a really strong, really clear.
Yeah.
Policy that the staff can
Yeah.
clearly interpret
Yeah.
and.
You just don't wanna get into, I don't even know if this stuff would really happen. I mean, does this happen in real life? I hope not, like. Well, you approved that group's banner and you wouldn't fly our banner and and I'm angry and I don't know if that would happen.
Yeah, you saw that.
But
Some you don't wanna go there.
So, yeah, well, okay, we can go back, that's good feedback, we can go back as our. About that.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Ellen, anything else?
No, that's it.
That's
It grows
good.
more murky, but.
Okay. Director,
You wanna go first?
first off, I encourage you to read the report so that they don't.
Hey, that's my line.
They don't have to reiterate everything that they wrote in their report. But you can highlight things.
Does anyone have any questions on my report as written? And then I've just got a random update. Short. Last meeting, we were talking about the lead abatement for those 3 windows. That it stalled out in the middle. What didn't happen was a lead test. Barry used a hardware kit, which was very helpful. Elizabeth suggests lab standards are the ones that would apply. And just since we were talking about it last meeting, I wanted to let everybody know that that's nowhere for the moment, but that's that.
You can get a company to come and do that though, right? Like,
We
it's
could.
fairly cheap.
There's a good argument. Because, Elizabeth is basically a building historian, looking at that paint, it's not alligator. So it doesn't look to be, it presents every visual cue that it's already been at some point, stripped and dipped is the term. But there are also new lead standards that would have happened in the 80s. So whether the windows would,
And now up to date with the up to date standard.
the Windows update?
And the counter argument to it doesn't look like it should have lead is it was a trained abatement specialist who came in and said those windows are almost undoubtedly lead and said you should absolutely not have them all. So I think we'll just go ahead and get a professional test done. At this point, we don't need to crack the windows until probably April or May, which gives us plenty of time to get a test done. And then we'll know if it is in fact safe to open this. Then it's a couple $100, $200-$300. So I'll just make that happen.
Sounds good. Okay, Director.
Director's report, as Claire said, please do read the report. I harangue the staff mercilessly, to get stuff in. I try to have it in time so that folks can read it in advance of this meeting. I don't always succeed. Over the next couple of months, we'll figure out who does like to have a printed copy, and we'll make sure there's enough printed copies. Folks who want to bring laptops in and follow along on their laptops, we won't print stuff out for you. One of the documents I did submit this time was a kind of a ABC on the building. We are running a little late. I don't know if folks want to take that up. It is a complex topic. It is also probably the single most important topic in front of this library for the next 48 months. Yes, sir.
Can I ask a question about your
Please
report,
do.
other than this?
Yeah.
Do that. Did you get the turnout that you were hoping? Remember you talked about
At least 50.
what you wanted for those events?
Well, I didn't get, the room wasn't full. We had 10 people. The 10 people all had a great time. It was an extremely high risk way to start a new speaker series. And I was pretty happy to have double-digit turnout. Please do save the date of October 23rd in the evening, when we will be hosting Angus Cheney and Ethan Nelson for their books about rogue mountain bike gangs of Brandon Gap. That will be a lively evening again. So yeah, I was happy. Good way to start.
Do you have any other ideas, suggestions for promotion that across your?
I've not, I've almost finished a newsletter. It would have been done, except MailChimp decided to lose 3 hours of my work. So I had to redo it. But I essentially it's at the testing phase, so it'll go out and it'll have the postcard and it'll have the events. I don't know what I need to do to get better coverage from the Herald. I had some pretty blunt conversation there. I'm like, guys, I am starting a speaker series with a retired stripper named Bambi, and I cannot convince you to even give me a phone call to put an article in the paper. What the heck do I have to do? I never saw it in print. I did see it online. They did eventually do a story. I did a Facebook ad. Mountain Times did put something in. The challenge I'm having, and this is a development committee issue, is we do really well at reaching the same 600 people over and over. And in this community, because we don't have a TV station and we don't have a paper that everybody reads anymore, and there's no real one way to get the word out about stuff, you have to send stuff out 15 or 20 different places and hope that it picks up. With the new board members, you will be on the newsletter list. All I ask is you forward it, like it, share it. Just, it's social media. If I put it out and nobody responds to it, Facebook and the rest, Instagram, all the rest will go, oh, this is not, nobody's interested in this. And if it goes out and immediately 20 people go, wow, this is great, then another 20 people will see it, or 40 people will see it, because that's how the algorithm works. So when you do get stuff from me, even if you don't have time to read it, just click like, please. Yeah, so it was great. It was a fun start, and I am happy to report that tomorrow I will be talking to the person who I think will be giving the talk of how it came to be that lesbian strikes are blues.
But other ones, you might be planning to do this as, you know, give an update on Halloween parade this evening, planning and all that.
I will be, and again, I'm sorry, I got sick for a couple of days and I didn't get all this stuff done that I wanted to have done. I am worried about not having enough turnout for the Halloween parade. One of the things that's in the newsletter is, hey, if your family wants to march for Rutland Free Library, we'd love to. We will have 3 people. We may not have.
Oh,
What's that?
who's just 3 from our board?
I'd have to go through and see who gave me a yes. But I've since had a couple of people say, oh, that Halloween parade, yeah, no, I'm not there.
Are you able to, do you have like a date in mind where you'll decide, like, kind of a drop dead date we can plan?
Well, we're gonna do something. If it's me riding the book bike, it'll be me riding the book bike. We will be in the parade. We're not going to have the kind of presence in the parade that's gonna make people say, take nothing. Which makes it less effective being in the parade in the first place.
Yeah.
If you've got, a handful of people marching down the street waving a sign, you're in the parade. But that's not what we should be. That's not how I want to represent the library public. I want to represent us as a vibrant place to be, kind of, oh, isn't that fun? Yes, that looks great. I'd love to go to the library.
Did you reach out to the friends?
I have friends, the friends, trend a little older and marching in the parades and they're, for the most part, not.
Dolly Parton, they're gonna take along.
They are completely set up with a glorious plan involving, I believe, a red Jeep and Dolly
And Dolly
Parton.
Parton, yeah, so they're taking along the library
Yeah, DPIL will be present at the parade.
in the same block.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that I have to leave.
I do.
And I do have to
Thank you,
say,
Ann.
when my husband said to me, what is this you shared on Facebook about a stripper program? You got it.
It's gonna change your algorithm now.
But it was so fun.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning those. So the building conversation, I feel like we should put off. I don't know how long. we should put it off.
Do you ever have special meetings?
Yes, there is a group and it needs a new name, because it was originally drafted, we called it the Blue Ribbon Committee so that we could, tweak people's egos that they were being invited to join a Blue Ribbon Committee. But now that we're trying to convince people that, it's a committee made up of their friends and neighbors, Blue Ribbon Committee is not the ideal title for it. It meets
Fourth,
Thursday at 4:00.
fourth one.
Basically.
But he's saying of the board.
Talking about special meeting, focus on what you have identified. Facing this board. Next number.
I'm happy to have that conversation. We can have some of it in the introduction. People who have been on the board for the last 6 months have lived it. And yeah, no, I mean, it's great. If that's what the board wants, I will come to the meeting. I will prepare stuff. I will talk for longer than you want me to.
It would seem we have time now. For this. It's less urgent. Because we're really waiting on developments at City Hall.
Yeah.
It seems, and those developments aren't going to be coming soon.
Right. So our previous timeline was we had to spend all the money by the end of 2026. Now the timeline is if we move by the start of 2026, that would be a real achievement.
So like we would have time for the next few, I know we usually don't meet in December.
We do not.
Because that'll be the budget meeting.
Yes.
But we could make, we could meet in
You
December
could meet in December.
and have it be just strictly, let's talk about our ideas and our planning for where because we need to make a decision as a board to decide which direction we want to go. Because there was a lot of issues with this building, as we all know, and we do our little orientation, I will make sure I address all of that. We get caught up to where the rest of the board is. But that, that's a big issue, so, but we as the board are the ones who make the decision, so we want to be, everyone needs to be as informed as some of us are. And that, it's difficult to do.
If you just want to read up on it, there is a page on our website the budget numbers are incorrect because there's no $2.67 million in federal funding. But the rest of
That's a small.
the rest of it is still there. Because we do have three options. We can renovate this building. We can move. Or we can just kick the can down the road. And the next director can be where I was when I started, which is when something breaks, it's an emergency. And you deal with it emergency by emergency. And if, when I retire in the next 3 to 7 years, if we're still doing things emergency by emergency, I will feel like I have failed.
And just so you know where I'm at, a year ago when we started our committee, or maybe, I don't know how long, year, 2.5,
I don't know
whatever.
what
First words out of my mouth, coming to this board, this board for 5 years. Every single week, month, it's something else that's falling apart or something else that's happening, and I keep kicking it down the can down the road, and I said, we cannot let that continue to happen. We have to make it. So that third option, in my mind, is off the table. So we either decide we're going to renovate this place or we're going to move. And if you look at the finances, renovating this place is close to $10 million. Moving is 4. So right there, and we didn't get that federal money, so it's going to the city and doing a bond. Will the city give us an $8 million bond with taxes the way that they are? I really don't. So I think we are sort of, leaning heavily towards the moving option, but that's my opinion, and I think everyone needs to be made aware of it entailed. But, I think we could have it be an abbreviated December meeting to discuss just, not do a normal thing, but just let's talk about,
But there's a lot to talk about.
yeah,
It would seem that this is a supremely essential
it is a very good.
issue to be decided, to be discussed and decided. We either ignore what we're supposed to do, and focus on that. Or we try to squeeze them in which case we better take 3 or 4 hours. It's seen a long time. Or we have a special meeting assigned specifically to discuss. Or right, that issue and that.
I think it's a great idea, and like I say, I'm happy to provide whatever you need.
Yeah. Every.
Let's hash it out. That's my vote. Okay, any other business? Anyone? So can I have a motion to adjourn?
So
motion.
second.
Great, thank you, guys.
Claire? Thank you all.